Yeah, I just did.
All right. All right, Heath, you can start us off.
All right. So this is Coach Vossler. He's the coach for our football team at Robinson Secondary School. We're going to ask you a few questions today for our Rams Athletic YouTube page.
Thanks for having me, guys.
No problem. So the first question, what are your hopes for this year's football season?
Usually we talk about like winning championships and playing for, in the playoffs and all that stuff. I think this year has kind of brought a new perspective on what's important and what we want our kids to get out of, being a part of our program. And I really think like this year, I just want you guys to be able to play as many games as you can. I think given all the time that we've missed and all the activities and things that have been taken away from you guys, I just want this year to be an enjoyable experience and let you guys get experience playing high school football. So that's my number one goal. Obviously, we want to win when we're out there and we're all competitive people, but I think trying to really follow the protocols and the things, encouraging both you guys and your families to do whatever you can to keep the team on the field is really my number one priority, because I think when we look back, 15, 20 years from now, we're going to want to remember those memories that we had of us of being together and having those moments. And winning is always a part of that, and then championships are a part of that too. But we don't get any of that stuff if we can't stay on the field. So I think that's my number one goal. Is we have 6 regular season games scheduled, plus a bowl game opportunity or playoffs. I want us to be able to experience all those because I think you guys deserve it.
And going off of that, how do you feel that the new COVID protocols have affected the team, and how is this year different from others?
I think we just have to be a little more aware of what we're doing off the field. We have a couple extra things we got to do, but I don't think there's anything that we've been asked to do that's over the top and that's too burdensome. A lot of it is just getting everybody on the same page and making sure that we're following through on the simple things that we can do to help keep us safe. And I do think you guys have done a really good job of policing yourselves. I think we've found a nice routine that is comfortable for everybody. And, it's almost becoming like this is the normal. I think, we check in every day, we bring our stuff home, we space out in the locker room. A lot of the stuff we used to do, doesn't seem any better or worse than what we're doing now. It's just different. And I think the big part of that was just getting everybody trained and acclimated to following those procedures. And once we got it, I don't think that a lot of us even really have to think about it anymore. We just kind of know what's expected, and we go through the motions and get it done. So I don't think it's been that difficult. I think it's more just a nerve-wracking situation, right? We're always like, hoping everything's going to be okay and that we're going to be able to keep doing this, but you just never know when it might get taken away for a variety of reasons.
All right, so we know this year's different with splitting JV from varsity. What effect do you think that'll have on the success of the JV and varsity teams?
I don't think we'll really notice a whole lot this year. And that was not an easy decision for us to make. I know you guys, all being juniors, you've kind of got to see like that value of, as a sophomore, of being around those older players and knowing like, hey, I'm not there yet, but that's what it looks like. That's where I need to get to. And I do think we're going to lose some of that going into future seasons, and that some of our younger players just haven't been able to see what's going to be expected of them as much. As far as this year, one of the hardest things to do was those players that were probably going to be JV starters, but also be valuable backups for the varsity team. and deciding what to do with those players was tough. To be honest with you, deciding which coaches were going to be up and down was difficult and was a challenge. But I do think with the shortened season, the fact that we have an older football team this year, we have a lot of returning starters and guys that have played. It was pretty easy for us to kind of have a smaller group to practice with. In another year or another team, I don't think it would have been as smooth as it was for us this year. But I do think we are sacrificing something with our younger players this year that hopefully we can get corrected in the near future, but it will be an adjustment. Like when you guys are seniors, that group of sophomores will have never been to a varsity practice, or very few of them. And we'll be counting on some of those guys to play. That will be an adjustment period for them where they need to get up to speed quickly. So it's not something that I think in a normal year that we would even consider doing, but we did feel like it was the right thing to do this year to try to protect that time that the seniors were going to get this year. We just wanted to try to eliminate as many possibilities as we could.
Okay, and how do you think our team is matching up against the competition in our district and region this year?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to say because we just really haven't seen, a lot of the other teams. Like we're going to play Lake Braddock this week. They've played one game. We've played one game. I think when you look at the small sample size, you feel like we can match up with anybody. But it's going to be teams are really going to improve from week 1 to week 2 to week 3 here because you just haven't had a ton of preseason practice. So teams are really still in that early phase of their season where they're going to change quite a bit. And I think over the next 2 weeks, you're really going to start to notice, who rises to the top. Probably after everyone's played 3 games, you'll have a much better understanding on, who's great, who's just good, who's okay, and who's not so good. It's really hard to tell right now, but we know our players. I think obviously better than anybody else, and we feel like we're pretty talented. We think we've got guys that are fighting for playing time that in normal years were surefire starters for us, and that's a good place to be in as a coach. But what we don't know is like what's everybody else got, So in comparison to other people, we're never really sure, but we do feel good about our roster.
And for the next question, how do you feel that the lack of fans will positively or negatively affect the way that we play on Friday nights?
It's interesting. I think fans are like a blessing and a curse at times, I think, in football, in that like you can derive a lot of energy from them. But I also think that sometimes you get caught up in the moment and you lose track of, what you're exactly supposed to do. So I do think you're going to see a little bit more of a disciplined brand of football because the coaches can communicate, players can communicate easier. There shouldn't be as many mental hiccups as what you maybe see. But on top of that, I think in some of the games where it's not so close, the game might drag on a little bit because there isn't that buzz around the field that there normally is. And I really feel like football, that's a big thing, not having fans. In a lot of other sports, there may or may not be a whole lot of fans there to begin with. But in football, there was always an atmosphere around the varsity football game. And I do think that will affect games that maybe the score isn't so close or there isn't so much on the line.
So obviously this year is unique to other years, but what do you think makes this year's team unique to other teams you've coached in the past?
I think we have really good leadership. I really think that when the coaches express that something is important, that the players also think it's important, and our leaders drive that home. We've really practiced well the whole time we've been out there, and I don't really know if that's because we're just excited to be out there and we have a new appreciation of the opportunity to play, or do we just have a really mature football team that wants to be as good as they possibly can all the time. But I have like we've had maybe one bad practice and one average practice, and the rest have been good. That's not always the case. So I think a combination of factors. We always knew these groups were pretty good groups as far as character and talent. But we're seeing that put in action out there on the field, and it's exciting to be a part of it.
For the next question, how important is culture to Rams football team? How important is it?
I think it's everything. It's the coaches are out there with you guys for 2 hours a day, and of that 2 hours, they're probably actively and verbally coaching for a few minutes at a time. Hang on one second. How you doing? But culture is all the in between the line stuff. So when the coaches aren't there, what's going on? When the players are at home, what's going on? And I think if you have the right culture, you have the right people, all those time periods where there's not direct supervision, the team is still getting positive momentum. And I think we saw that a lot with our team in the offseason. We weren't able to do a whole lot, but when we finally were able to come back, guys had come back bigger, stronger, and faster than what they previously were. We didn't have a bunch of people that looked worse than when we went on break. So, that told a lot to us that we had a lot of guys that really cared about getting better, and that they were working in the off season despite having a coach standing over the top of them. And I think that's all carried over to our football season.
So we do have Lake Braddock this weekend. How are you feeling about the game against our rivals this Friday?
Lake Braddock's always a very talented football team. They're well coached. They got a great tradition over there. So it's been a challenge for us in recent years to play with them. I do think this will be one of our best opportunities. I think, we match up fairly well against them. I do think that they feel pretty good. They just had a huge win the other day against Westfield. But we're excited. This is why you play high school football, these type of games. You want to go over there and measure yourself against the best. And we're going to have that opportunity Friday night. I'm excited for you guys. I think we practiced well and prepared well. And I think we're ready to go over there and give it our best shot to get a victory.
Well, that's all we have for you today.
Thanks,
Awesome.
Coach.
Thanks for talking
No
with us.
problem, guys. Hang in there. We'll see you in a few hours.
All right,
Sure.
sounds good.
It's supposed to be nice today, like